topic seems very simple, but it's actually not. The clock in the listening section is a little complicated to understand. So let's go through it. First of all, the listening section in general is structured in sets of 3. You get 6 or 9 recordings in groups of 3. If you have a short listening section, then you get 6 recordings. That's if you have a long reading section, right? So you get long reading and then a short listening. Or you could have a short reading section and then a long listening section with 9 recordings. But they come in groups of 3. That's important because the timer depends on this. So you could have a group of 3, like a lecture, conversation, and discussion. And when that's finished, when you finish these 3 recordings, you move on to another group of 3 with a lecture, conversation, and classroom discussion. And then you could get one more set on a long listening section. This is key because the timer counts for each set of 17 questions. For each set of 17 questions, you get 10 minutes. And notice, this 17 questions is counting the questions for the lecture, conversation, and classroom discussion. If you add those together, they make the 17. So you get 10 minutes total for all of these questions. And then you get 10 minutes here. And then you get 10 minutes here. So the timer is separated by these sets of 3. Let's look at an example. So first you're going to see a picture and hear a recording. The picture might look like this. And you hear a lecture. And while this happens, there's no clock. There's no timer. But after that, you see a question. And when you see the first question, the timer will begin, and it counts down from 10 minutes. Here you can see this is probably the first question because, well, I've only spent 49 seconds on it. I still have over 9 minutes remaining. Actually, maybe this is the second or third question, but it's early in the set. So after I finish 5 or 6 questions, depending on whether it's a lecture or a conversation, I see another picture and get another recording. So when I get to another recording, there is no clock. It stops. It is paused. But when I finish that, I come back to more questions and the clock comes back. And it's the same clock, because it's counting down from the time remaining out of 10 minutes that I had. And this repeats 3 times, right? You get 3 recordings in each set. But after those 3 recordings are finished, you get the next set of 3 recordings, and the timer restarts to 10 minutes. This is complicated, but the truth is you don't have to worry about it too much because it doesn't cause problems for most students. Listening section questions can't take that much time because you can't go back. You can't listen again or just repeat the whole recording if you want to. Reading section questions can take time because sometimes students get stuck rereading the whole passage or spending a long time looking in the text. You can't do that during the listening. So most of the time, timing is not an issue. You read the answer choices, you choose one, you move on. The questions are generally quite short, and because you can't listen again, you can't get stuck for a long time. But sometimes students do have a little trouble. If you have trouble with the timer, well, if you're running out of time, then choose the answers that look familiar, because often wrong answers in the TOEFL listening bring in topics, keywords, that were just not in the recording. They were not in the lecture or conversation. So choose things that you think you heard. Don't choose things that you think maybe were not in the recording, because it's possible they actually were not in the recording. Now, if you're running out of time, it is also possible to just choose a random answer and move on. And this is only for if you're spending a lot of time on one question. For example, if you know you have just 3 more questions remaining, but you have 15 seconds remaining, and you have already spent 20 seconds on one question, well then it's probably time to move to the next question and just guess. This is only important for the last few questions in a set of 17. You don't need to worry about guessing usually. You should make the best answer, give the best answer that you can, and don't give up. But in the last couple of questions, again, 2 or 3 questions, then you might just guess and move on if you have less than 30 seconds remaining. So this is only a last resort if there is no time left.